This is CNN, the world's news network.
Democratic showdown, terrorism, guns, and a surprising apology dominate the last presidential debate of the year. We'll have the highlights just ahead. Also, flexing its military muscle, Russia says it's ready to use more force in Syria, just a day after the UN proposes a plan for peace. And voters head to the polls why Spain's election is almost impossible to predict. We'll look at what's driving a potentially messy result. Hello and welcome to our viewers in the US and around the world. I'm Lynda Kinkade. This is CNN Newsroom. We begin with the US Democratic presidential debate, and for the third and final time this year, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley took to the stage, this time in Manchester, New Hampshire. The debate featured spirited talk about a range of issues, including gun control, terrorism and jobs. It also included two apologies, one from Hillary Clinton when she returned late to the stage after a commercial break, the other from Bernie Sanders after his staff exploited a computer glitch that allowed his team to steal some of Hillary Clinton's campaign files.
What I have a real problem with, and as you mentioned, this is a problem. I recognize it is a problem. But what the DNC did arbitrarily, without discussing it with us, is shut off our access to our own information, crippling our campaign. That is an egregious act. I'm glad that late last night that was resolved. Fourthly, I look forward to working with Secretary Clinton for an investigation, an independent investigation, about all of the breaches that have occurred from day one in this campaign, because I am not convinced that information from our campaign may not have ended up in her campaign. Don't know that. Not only do I apologize to Secretary Clinton, and I hope we can work together on an independent investigation from day one, I want to apologize to my supporters. This is not the type of campaign that we run. And if I find anybody else involved in this, they will also be fired.
Now that I think, we've resolved your data, we've agreed on an independent inquiry, we should move on.
You want to know why things don't get done in Washington? Because for the last 24 hours, with those issues being so urgent to people as they tune in tonight, wondering how they're going to even be able to buy presents for their kids, instead, we're listening to the bickering back and forth. Maybe that's normal politics in Washington, but that is not the politics of higher purpose that people expect from our party.
I worry greatly that the rhetoric coming from the Republicans, particularly Donald Trump, is sending a message to Muslims here in the United States and literally around the world that there is a clash of civilizations, that there is some kind of Western plot or even war against Islam, which then, I believe, fans the flames of radicalization.
Martha,
thank you, Senator Sanders. I think we're going to go on.
We want to touch on something that's issues that really separates us on this stage, David. Excuse me, no.
Governor, we have to abide by the rules here. We'll call on you here shortly, but I do want to pick up on something.
Actually pass comprehensive gun safety legislation with a ban on combat assault weapons, David. And look, there are profound differences in this race on this issue.
We can do all the great speeches we want, but you ain't going to succeed unless there is a consensus.
Right.
In 1988, just to set the record straight, Governor, I ran for the U.S. House. We have one House member from Vermont, 3 candidates in the race. One candidate said, you know what, I don't think it's a great idea that we sell automatic weapons in this country that are used by the military to kill people very rapidly. Gun people said there were 3 candidates in the race, you vote for one of the others, but not Bernie Sanders. I lost that election by 3 percentage points, quite likely for that reason. So please, do not explain to me, coming from a state where Democratic governors and Republican governors have supported virtually no gun control. Excuse me. Do not tell me that I have not shown courage in standing up to the gun people, in voting to ban assault weapons, voting for instant background checks, voting to end the gun show loophole, and now in a position to create a consensus in America on gun safety.
Senator, thank you.
Well, I think a lot of people are understandably reacting out of fear and anxiety about what they're seeing. First, what they saw in Paris, now what they have seen in San Bernardino. And Mr. Trump has a great capacity to use bluster and bigotry to inflame people and to make them think there are easy answers to very complex questions. And we also need to make sure that the really discriminatory messages that Trump is sending around the world don't fall on receptive ears. He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
And I say this with due respect, that I worry too much that Secretary Clinton is too much into regime change and a little bit too aggressive without knowing what the unintended consequences might be.
But I'll tell you what would have happened if we had not joined with our European partners and our Arab partners to assist the people in Libya. You would be looking at Syria.
Raises for CEOs up more than 200%.
Sorry.
Should corporate America love Hillary Clinton?
Everybody should. With respect to my own husband, I am probably still going to pick the flowers and the china for state dinners and stuff like that.
Well, as you just heard, Hillary Clinton came out swinging in the debate, particularly against her Republican opponents. She asserted, as she has done before, that Trump is acting as an ideal recruitment tool for ISIS. CNN commentators weighed in on Clinton's statement. Take a listen.
The notion that ISIS is already using Donald Trump's statements about banning Muslims from coming to the United States. Have you seen evidence that ISIS is already doing that?
No, I haven't. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, the truth is, and this is, I think, a hard thing for Democrats and Republicans to acknowledge, the thing that ISIS uses the most is American airstrikes and drones that kill people in the Middle East that are being done by the Obama administration. That's a bigger driver of ISIS recruitment than anything that Donald Trump is saying, as reprehensible as it is.
S.E. Cupp, another one of our political commentators. What's your big takeaway?
Yeah, well, as a conservative, obviously, I was listening through different ears. All I heard primarily was varying defenses of the sort of current status quo lead from behind strategy. Hillary talked a lot about coalitions. Coalitions seemed to be her answer for every domestic and international ill, whether it was guns or ISIS. She talked about Russia probably respecting a no-fly zone. I'm not sure a lot of people trust her instincts when it comes to Russia. Bernie Sanders said he'd somehow magically be able to make Muslim nations who have been unwilling to help us in the fight against ISIS somehow do this. And when pressed on it, he couldn't really explain why. And I think Martin O'Malley, in tone and tenor, tried to distinguish himself, but didn't really on substance. So I think if you're a Republican looking at a general election and you know that terrorism is top of mind to most voters, I think you're thinking that the Republicans are more where the nation is, where voters are, than these three Democratic candidates.
You know, if I could say, the truth is that they're right. ISIS has lost a substantial amount of territory since early this year. The strategy is actually working on the ground. Doesn't mean ISIS can't plot attacks in the West, but on the ground in Iraq and Syria, ISIS really is losing territory.
The majority of Americans, though, don't think that, and that's reflected.
Reality still matters.